Good evening. So we started to discuss system development life cycle in the previous class, right? Have we started the system development life cycle? No, right? Okay, look. So we finished the types of information system. We have computer-based information system, and also we have manual information system. In manual information system, all the data processing are done by people. Everything is done by people with hand. That's why it's manual. There is no electronic devices or in databases or softwares involved. Everything is done by people. That's why it is manual. So in a manual information system, there are some vital components. As we discussed, you have papers, you have files, filing cabinets. More importantly, you have people. But on the other hand, computer-based information systems use hardware, software, databases, telecommunication, and also people for processing the data or they can turn the data into information using such things. So we discussed the differences between manual information system and computer-based information system, and also we found that computer-based information system is the best one among these two because it may have or it has so many good characteristics. So hope everyone remembers those characteristics. So because of the characteristics such as more accuracy, more security, right, reliability, fast, right? So we believe that they are the best one to use. So almost all the information systems nowadays are computer-based information systems. Still, you have some manual, but relatively it's very less. The number is very less. Okay, right. So now we have to start another important heading, system development life cycle. SDLC, system development life cycle, in short SDLC. Look, I tell you what, I tell you something about this term first. After that, we can start learning. Look, in this particular unit, the importance has to be given to this title. Almost all the questions come from this area. This is not a small area. This needs some time to understand. It takes around, for me, it's around 4 classes taken. Even people could finish within 1 class or 2 class, but I take some time to explain because I feel that they must be explained in detail. Then only you can understand properly. Maybe you can manage even if you memorize or something. Sometimes even once you memorize, sometimes you feel some problems in answering, but it's okay. But learn properly, then only you can manage any question, right? So let's come to the title first. So as I always say, titles have facts. System development life cycle. So now for some classes, maybe for 3 classes, forget about this word life cycle. This is not important now, right? Just forget this word life cycle, because if I take the life cycle now, sometimes it is tough to get a clear picture, right? So ignore that word or ignore that phrase. Maybe at the end of this title, after 4 classes, we can take that word and understand. So now for me, it's system development, right? So now see, I have some idea now, because earlier it was slightly confusing, but now when the phrase became very short, I could, I mean, imagine something. system development. So development means, you know, creation or something, right? So now I can understand that it is related to system creation or forming the system. So we don't use the word create or form or build or something. We use the word develop. So develop system means developing a system. So now I come very closer to the word because I got some idea now. So I know that it is related to developing the system now, but it is not the complete meaning. So still I have some distances to move closer. So look here, system development. So now you may have doubt because we learned system at the beginning. Now we started information system. So you may wonder how, you may wonder whether it is related to normal system or whether it is related to information system or something. That is a real, I mean, that's a natural question asked, right? So you may have such doubt because it is system development. So ask yourself whether this is related to developing a system or whether it is related to developing an information system. You can get the answer also because, you know, nowadays every system turns into information system. Almost all the systems can be called information system nowadays because they have to convert the data to information. So now, even though the term is system development, it indirectly tells us that is information system. Okay, but in short, we write as system development, but it is information system. So I put a phrase here, information system. So now the title becomes lengthy, information system development life cycle. But we omit the word information because, you know, system means information system nowadays. So having that additional term information is not needed. It's useless. So we use that word in system development. Got it? Look, you have to, I mean, come with me in a chain, right? I'm going in a pattern, in a straight line. So have to understand everything one by one. Okay. Now I have another doubt. Before I clarify that doubt, I tell you one thing. So I just want to define this SDLC in a very brief manner. Okay, I want to explain this system development life cycle in a brief manner in order to explain this term, right? That's why I give a small introduction. SDLC has activities. SDLC has activities which are needed to develop an information system. This is a very brief introduction for SDLC. I repeat it, system development life cycle has many activities needed for developing an information system. And also note, all these activities must be carried out one after the other. So that is SDLC. So now come with this mindset or with this introduction, come to this point. So now we have a doubt. Now we decided that it is an information system. So now I realized that this is related to developing an information system. So immediately in my mind, there is another doubt. Another doubt there. What is it? I should check, or I should decide whether this SDLC is for developing computer-based information system or manual information system, or maybe both. Have you understood? I decided that it is information system development. So which means developing information system. So now I'm checking whether this is related to manual information system development or computer-based information system development. Okay. For answering this question, the definition which I have given just now may help. Because I told you that SDLC has many activities need to be performed one after the other in order to develop system. That may be my definition. Now come here. you can develop the manual information system overnight. All you want to, take people, maybe paper, file. So, these things can easily be gathered. So you cannot spend maybe days or maybe months for developing a manual information system, because it's all about manual things. Have you got that idea? So developing a manual information system is very simple, and also it doesn't take much time, more days. As I said, within a single day, you can, even within sometimes hours, you can. So if you want to develop a manual information system, you cannot spend hours or spend months, and also you cannot fulfill so many tasks. So now you should realize that computer-based information system is the one which has or which wants or which needs so many days, which needs so many activities. Because as we discussed earlier, in computer-based information system, we use hardware, we use software, there some telecommunication things there. You have to establish everything. This the software which runs in a computer-based information system should be developed. You cannot purchase at a shop and use. Imagine, it takes time. So developing an information system is tough. At the same time, it must be carried out as a sequence of steps. So now come to the point, even though the term is system development life cycle, in fact, it is computer-based information system development, right? Computer-based information system development life cycle. But we ignore that part. What is it? Computer-based information ignored. The reason may be simple, because nowadays, systems are information systems. And also you have manual and computer, but don't forget, manual information systems are not nowadays. Maybe right in some purposes people use, but nobody wants to use manual. So if it is information system, it is computer based nowadays. So there is no need to put the word like computer based information system development life cycle. So even if you mention system development life cycle, it indirectly tells you that it is computer based information system life cycle. I hope that you understood the thing. I took some time to explain because I want you to understand the concept, right? I can directly, give you that explanation, but I don't want. I took some step in order to explain. Okay, so come to the point. Now you all realize that this heading is all about developing a computer-based information system. Okay, right, come. To develop a computer-based information system, as we all know, you need to take steps, because as I mentioned just now, computer-based information system has plenty of components which need to be, developed, which need to be created, like databases, softwares, even hardware you have to purchase. You cannot build the hardware, but you need to decide the hardware to be purchased. So many activities to be taken. Sometimes it takes years, sometimes it takes months. So I tell you what SDLC is now. SDLC, System Development Life Cycle, is a complete process of activities needed for developing a computer-based information system. I repeat, you may use your own words to describe this, but understand the fact, right? So SDLC, System Development Life Cycle, is a process or is processes needed for developing computer-based information system. At the same time, remember, these activities must be carried out one after the other. So you have to do them in a sequence manner. Then only you can build or you can develop the computer-based information system, right? Okay. Look, so I mentioned that activities need to be performed for developing a computer-based information system. Yes, it's correct. Of course, it's correct. But these activities are included as steps in SDLC. You can do so many activities. All these activities are included in phases, in steps in SDLC. This SDLC has 6 various steps to be taken to develop a computer-based information system. Every step has many activities. So you have to remember all the steps first. In addition to that, you need to remember the order of the steps, because you cannot change the order. So when you are developing something, when you are creating something, you know there is an order. If you are cooking something, or if you want to cook something, you know you need to perform, or you need to follow the order. You cannot mix the order. You cannot change the order. If you change the order, you know there may be disaster, right? So you have to follow the order. So here also you have to remember the order. More importantly, you need to remember the activities taken place in every step. You have 6 steps. In all the 6 steps, there are activities taken place. We should understand those activities taken place in all these 6 phases. So definitely it takes time, right? Because you know, remember mentioning those 6 phases and remembering the order may be important, but at the same time you have to understand the activities taken place. That's very lengthy, so it is take time. But don't think that it is hard or it is confusing or something, right? I'm not, I mean, so sometimes you may be afraid to I mean see the subject or something. That is not the thing. The subject is too simple. I'm talking about unit. This unit is too simple, but understand. So while I'm explaining, understand everything clearly. I will definitely take time, and you can manage whatever question asked. Okay, right. So without further introduction, let's take the steps in SDLC. Right, there are 6 phases. So let's take those 6 phases first. Right. So, and also one thing, when you take the phases, you can understand something from the phases, because those English terms have some meanings. They bear some meanings, right? So when you look at the name, try understanding something. Don't wait for me to start explaining. So at the time when I write something, start guessing. So you know, I said this already. So when some new letters or new, I mean, phrases written, try guessing. Then only you can. Right. Look at the first one. So in SDLC, the first phase would be identification of requirements, right? Identification of requirements. So this is the first phase in SDLC. I will explain them after introducing all the 6 phases. Second, we have another phase called designing the solution. Designing the solution. Okay, that is the second phase. As third, we have another one called coding the solution. Coding the solution. Then number 4 would be testing and debugging. Testing and debugging. Number 5 would be deployment. Deployment, sometimes called implementation, but always use the word given in your book, that is safe. Deployment. finally, at last, maintenance. Maintenance, sometimes called system maintenance. Okay, so these are the 6 phases included in SDLC. These are carried out one after the other. So you have to start from the beginning. So you need to complete the first phase, then only you can go to the second phase. After completing the second phase, can go to the third phase. Like that, once all the phases are completed, you know that computer-based information system can be successfully available for the use. Okay, so we should remember the names. You know, now since it is the very first time that you see these words, so sometimes you feel that these are slightly difficult to remember, but don't think like that, because we have to study these names and the activities. So when we study the activities taken place in every phase, you know, these words should be stuck in your mind. You don't need to spend additional time for remembering these words. They must be in your mind once you go through. Okay, don't worry. And also I talked about this order, right? The order also very easy. You can go through, and once we study, the order must be, because now the problem is you don't know what happened inside. You don't know what happens inside of coding. So you don't know what are activities taking place in testing. So that may be the factor which confuses us now. But when we realize those things happen inside of every phase, then you can find a sequence there. After that, it can easily be remembered. Okay, right. But I tell you one thing also. In some books, even in some websites, you could find more phases. In fact, 6 phases, sorry, 8 phases, or sometimes they have 5 phases too. But the same heading SDLC. So when you see such wordings or such classification, don't think that they are correct or this one is correct. So you don't have such issue, because everything is same. That is also system development life cycle. This is also system development life cycle. But sometimes, you know, here we have activities in 6 phases. Sometimes people further divide these activities. Sometimes here in one phase, maybe if I take the first phase, there may be so many activities happen. Sometimes some of the analyzers divide this phase into 2 and try showing the activities separately. So now these 6 phases can become as 7 or 8 phases. That is not a problem. If you see such things, don't be confused. Everything same, because in that case they show activities in different phases, but we include in one phase. Okay, that's not an issue, right? So let's take the first phase and understand the thing that is identification of requirements. So let's start from that. I tried to complete the first phase today. Maybe second, I can start the second. Let's see how far we can go. Right. Okay. Identification of requirements. Okay. Before I explain, I want to clarify one more thing. Look. So I need one more thing to be clarified, because sometimes these clarifications or these explanations help you to understand the upcoming phases, especially for the first phase, and also especially for the fourth phase. Yes, fourth phase. Sometimes you need some ideas. Okay, look here. Now we all know that SDLC for developing a CBIS. There's no doubt. It is not for manual. It is for computer-based information system. So SDLC is a process. It's a collection of process for developing computer-based information system, CBIS. Right. So let's understand one thing. Yes, it is for developing CBIS, but now I should decide in which situation or in which instances this SDLC is used. Right? I repeat it, in which situations SDLC is used for developing a CBIS. So which instance doesn't mean that it is SDLC. Sorry, it is CBIS. I clearly mentioned, yes, it is for developing a CBIS, but in which instances or in which situations which we use. So we can have some situations. Look at the first one. Listen to me. So assume that you have a manual information system now. Okay. So now you are running a manual information system. So since that manual information system has some problems, you have decided to convert that manual into computer based. Is it possible, right? So you maintain or you have a manual, but you find issues in manual information system. So you realize to change that into computer. So converting a manual information system into computer-based information system. Got it? So in this instance, you need system development lifecycle. So in this particular instance, I have an existing system. I have an old system, but that is manual. So that has some problems. So I wanted to change that manual into computer. So definitely I have to use this SDLC, which means I have to use these 6 phases to convert it as computer based. So this is the first instance where we use SDLC. Okay, so can anyone give me one more instance or one more situation where we use SDLC? I got the start, right? I gave a start. So follow this idea. So you have a manual information system. You decided to convert that manual into computer based. Here you need system development life cycle. So tell me or give me some instances or maybe 1 or 2 different situations where you need SDLC. Anybody? Shagana? Shagana. Yes. Because if I keep talking, then sometimes, you can't understand. It looks like a, total theory-based class. Definitely you have to argue something. Shagana, you are there, right? I told you that you can't be silent here, right? Give me another instance. I gave the start. Srivashni. Srivashni. Midurshian. Dania. Those who can't answer cannot be in the class. I already clearly told you the instructions. Whether the answer is correct or not, you have to give the answer, right? Hamsainius. Hamsaini, yes.
Yes, sir. For organization of development team.
I repeat my question. I gave the start. So we all know that SDLC is for developing a computer-based information system. Now I'm asking you, in which situations, right, or in which instances this SDLC is needed for developing CBIS? Tell me some different situation. I gave the first situation. You have a manual information system at the present. You can call that as existing system or old system. You need to modify that system because you need a computer-based system. So that's why you use SDLC. So what are the other instances? At least give me one more instance where you use SDLC for developing a CBIS. Try following this idea. That's why this has been shown. I'm asking the question after displaying one example, right? I didn't ask the question earlier, so I just waited for one example, then only I asked. So definitely you must answer. Hamsaini, okay, RTR.
Yes, sir.
What's the answer?
To CBIS to the larger one.
Give it again. Tell me your answer again.
Changing CBIS to the larger one.
Okay, so you can say like that. So you have a CBIS now. Try thinking like that, right? So you have a computer-based information system now, but you need a further developed CBIS. That is practical, right? So you have a computer-based information system, but even though you have a computer-based information system, you need some improvement there. That is practically possible. Look here, you might have developed this CBIS years ago. That CBIS cannot fulfill all the tasks now because it is outdated. You know, technology improved and you have so many needs. So you can't say that you have CBIS, it can fulfill all the tasks. So definitely this CBIS needs to be modified, needs to be, developed. So you have a CBIS now, that is your present system. You need to modify that as a further well featured CBIS. So there also you use SDLC. Have you understood? So you have, in the previous instance, you had manual information system and you converted that into CBIS. Now you have CBIS, but you wanted to convert that as another CBIS, so well facilitated CBIS. They also you use SDLC. There can be one more situation where we use SDLC. Anybody, what could it be? Prashant? Prashant. Arabic? Dariha? Dariha.
To get an MIS from CBIS,
Repeat it. Repeat your answer.
to get a manual report from CBIS.
Look, I already told you that SDLC for computer-based information system, right? I clearly explained that. That's why it took enough time. SDLC system development life cycle has plenty of activities. All these activities are needed only for CBIS. If you want to develop a manual information system, you can develop overnight. You don't need to spend hours or these activities. So remember, SDLC is all about developing CBIS. You can't say that it is for manual, right? So that idea is strong. Any others? Gajani K? Gajani? Gajani K? Gobisha? Gobisha. Artana?
Yes, sir. To transform the idea of a project into a more effective structure.
More effective structure means what does it? Definitely it must be a computer based, right? So more effective structure.
Yes.
Okay, let's come to the answer later, little later. Ashwini? J. Ashwini.
Yes, sir.
What's the answer? See, it's guessable, right? That's why I'm asking question. I don't want to give that directly. So you need to think. I have to make you to think. That's why I'm spending some time. Anybody? So if you can answer, anybody, what could be the last situation? For answering, you don't need to be expert in such areas, right? You can easily think practically and give the answer, right? Look here. So in the first instance, manual information system was there as existing system that has to be converted to CBIS. So we use system development lifecycle. But in the second instance, we have a computer-based information system as the current system. This needs to be modified as a well facilitated CBIS. So we used SDLC. But the third instance could be, look here, you don't have any system now. You don't have any information system now. Presently, there is nothing, no system. You want to develop an information system now. You don't have, in the first two, you have an existing system. You have the current system. In one instance, it is manual. In the other, it is computer-based. Think practically, now I don't have any system. I wanted to develop a system directly now. It's not the transformation. These are transformations, right? I mean, converting one into another. But now I don't have any system. So directly, right, I want to start a CBIS. Here also I need SDLC, System Development Lifecycle. Is it easy? Is it hard to guess? It's very simple. So you assume that you wanted a computer-based information system like a supermarket billing system or something. You don't have anything at this moment, but you want them directly. So here also you need SDLC. So see, these things are very helpful in answering or to discuss some of the upcoming phases. We are about to start the first phase, but when you go through, you can understand something with the help of these ideas. That's why I took it. But otherwise, for these are not for exams, right? Okay, so in three different situations, we can use SDLC for developing a computer-based information system. What are they? Converting the manual information system to computer-based, converting the computer-based information system into another computer-based, and also developing the computer-based information system newly, right? In all these instances, you need SDLC, okay? So keep them in your mind. Okay, right, look. Now let's start the identification of requirements, first phase. Okay, identification of requirements. Look, so now you wanted to develop a computer-based information system, right? You want a CBIS. Now you just started. Ask yourself, why did you start developing a CBIS? What's the reason? You wanted to develop a CBIS. What could be the reason? So definitely the answer would be, you have some issues, you have some problems. So since you face some problems, you wanted a system to overcome such issues. That may be the reason why you started to develop a CBIS. Have you understood? If you feel that you don't have any problems, any issues, there is no system needed. But you wanted to develop a computer-based information system because you had some issues, you had some problems. Even I can say you had some requirements. So in order to fulfill those requirements, you just wanted that system. So now, as a first stage, you have to clearly identify the requirements which need to be included in your system. Have you understood? You have to identify all the requirements which are included or which will be included in the system. For example, see, assume that simple example. See, you want a computer-based information system for your library. Listen to me, library. Remember, the library is still there. It is manual. Think about your school libraries, right? So the school library is running at the moment in manual format. So you want a computer-based library, computer-based information system now. Because in manual information system, in manual library, you faced some problems. So you decided to convert your manual library into computer-based. So that's why you selected SDLC. I'm talking about my first situation, converting a manual into computer-based, right? So now think, as a first stage, you need to find the requirements which need to be included in your new system. So there may be so many problems or some issues faced by both teachers and students as well as librarians. So you have to carefully capture them. You have to carefully identify those requirements. But identifying the requirement seems to be a little hard, because so how can you identify? Assume, okay, now I take the library. I mostly, to explain these 6 phases, I will be stuck with the library example as well as some other example, but almost for all the phases, I take this library example because this is too simple to understand. And also this is familiar to you, right? Okay, now your school library has issues. Now your school decided to develop a CBIS. They just started their developing process. Now they are in the first phase, which means identifying the requirements. So now time to identify all the requirements, all the problems faced by the current library, right? So, this is very tough, as I mentioned earlier, because there are people who face problems. Sometimes those problems are not visible, right? Students face problems, teachers face problems, even librarian has problems. So before you develop a computer-based information system, you will have to carefully identify these issues. How? Looking around and seeing those things, watching these things sometimes doesn't work good. Maybe okay, but sometimes you cannot capture all the requirements. So now you can do something. There are some methods. Listen to me, this is important. There are some methods for finding or for identifying the requirements, right? There are some standard methods for identifying the requirements. The first method is observation. Observation. A term itself tells the story, right? I don't want to explain. Observation. So what happens now? Now, okay, before that, I should explain one more thing that is also important. Look here. Listen to me carefully, right? Your school library needs that computer-based information system. But you know, in your school, there cannot be any experts to develop a computer-based information system because there should be software developed, hardware components purchased, databases created. So it is tough. So now definitely your school, listen to me, your school has to approach software developing companies. There are companies, even you can say system development companies. There are companies whose job is to develop systems, is to develop software. So now your school has to contact a system development company and saying that you need a system for your library. Okay, so now look here, that particular company sends a person to you, to your school library to identify the requirements. You don't need, you may have some requirements, you can give them, but definitely as a software development company, they have the responsibility to identify the requirements. So they send a particular individual to your library for identifying the requirements. Have you understood? So this is the normal, practical procedure. So whenever you need a system, you need to approach the system development companies, right? So they send one person or maybe group of people for identifying the requirements. Okay, now they come to your school and they can observe. Maybe that person, maybe even single person enough, that person can observe. This is all about, watching and inspecting the surroundings. You know, by observing, you can gather some data, you can gather some requirements. Because see, in a library, if that particular person sees a big queue in front of the librarian, he can get some idea. He knows that it is something difficult to borrow a book. It takes some time for borrowing the book. That is a vital requirement. So sometimes, student may go here and there for find the book. In the manual library, student walk around here and there and search for a book. So now this person can understand that it is tough to identify a book or search a book in this library. So they want to check whether the book is available or not. So they take some time. So these are the requirements. So by observing, data can be gathered. Even you can call data can be gathered. Identification of requirements or even identification of data, everything okay, same. So it's the observation. The second one, interview. Interview. So if it is observation, you don't need to talk to any person. As a developer, you are there, you look around and watch the process, right? And note it down. You can get some requirements. But when it comes to interview, you need to talk to people. In fact, you need to talk to the users who use library. So maybe face-to-face talk, right? You have to meet some people and ask questions to get requirements. You may ask the librarian, you may interview the librarian to get some data. You may ask or interview some of the students, representatives of students to get some requirements. And also I'm talking about school library, right? So you can interview teacher. So interview is something which is face-to-face, talk. So you may take some students and ask question. So their answers would be the requirements. So you have to take the answer from every individual. Every means in different parties, teachers, students, right? Maybe principal, librarian. Then only the system development becomes meaningful. So that is interview. Okay. Then third, questionnaire. right? Questionnaire. You might have heard this word because this is a very familiar method for data collection in many instances. Even not only for system development, questionnaire is very, very popular in data collection. Look here. So that person came to your library. He had two options earlier. He could observe the surroundings for taking requirements. He could interview individual to gather the requirements. And of course, he also has another one, questionnaire. What does it mean? So questionnaire is nothing. It's a collection of questions, right? Collection of questions. So what happens here? It's a printed material, right? It's a printed material where questions are composed as a collection. All the questions are related to the system. So now as the developer, that person who came from that system development company created some questions, right? Formed some questions to collect the data about your school library. So all the questions are about your school library. And also all the questions are carefully designed in order to get the data from different people. So almost all the questions are true or false questions, sometimes one word question. Then only, the data can easily be analyzed, and also the users will pay some attention. Assume if that person distributes questionnaire that may have 30 or 40 questions, sometimes 50 questions. So if they distribute the questionnaire to you and ask you to fill, sometimes you don't get in, you don't have interest, because sometimes you may feel that it is tough to answer, it takes time. So that's maybe the reason why it's a very short form, true false question, and sometimes one word. So those questionnaires will be distributed to the users randomly, right? There is no need to distribute to all the users. Randomly, questionnaires are distributed, and the users are asked to fill that. That is important. You have to fill them. You may give your own idea, right? So for example, see, if it is library, there may be a question like, are you satisfied with the current library? Simple question, are you satisfied? So if you really feel that it is not satisfied, you are not satisfied, try like no, right? Are you satisfied? No. So this is one of the requirement or one of the idea or data to the developer. Have you understood? So there may be another question, are you or do you feel problems in searching a book in this library? Another one, right? So you may say yes or no. So that is also, so like that, questions are carefully formed. And also another one, as users, you don't need to write your names in the questionnaire, because when you write your name, sometime with the name you have some hesitation to show your truth, because you feel that your names are on the top. So when you write the fact, sometimes the answers are against your school in administration. So sometimes you feel that by providing the fact with the name, may push you to some harmfulness or something. So if you feel like that, sometimes you give some wrong answers. So even though the school is worse, library is worse, you may trying to say that library is doing good. So that may be the reason why names are not needed. Even the developer don't want or doesn't want who writes this or who writes that. He wants the fact, right? So without having the name, you can fill the questionnaire and hand it over to the developer again. So now it is the developer turn, who has to carefully analyze all the questionnaire. So he has to check for first question, how many of you put true? Yes. How many of you put no? So suppose if he distributed 100 questionnaires, the first question is, are you satisfied with the school library? So 70 students said no, 30 students yes. So now that is the fact, right? So now the developer realizes that the current library is not good for the students. Okay, so this is how the questionnaires are analyzed. without analyzing, you cannot come to the conclusion, right? So this is questionnaire. Okay, what is questionnaire? It's a printed material which has bunch of questions. Those questions need to be answered by the users. After answering, they have to collect back and analyze. So these are the three different methods used for data collection, or we can say identifying the requirements. What are they? You can observe the surroundings and get some requirements, can interview the different users in this in that system, right, and get requirements, and also questionnaire can be used. These are three, but we have some more methods too. Okay, you can't say that you have only three methods. There are some other methods too, but these three are very common, right? These are very common in most of the system, but we have some other methods also. Okay, so now it is the very initial stage. You need to identify the requirements. So to identify the requirements, you need some methods. These are the three. Okay, so the remaining methods will be taken later. So today also we covered a very little one. As I said earlier, I wanted to complete the first phase, but I couldn't. But this is enough. Understand. All right, so this is enough for today. We will take the remaining methods and the second phase in the next class. Thank you.